Welcome to In the Hot Seat with the Tenney Group. I'm Spencer Tenney. It's good to be with you. What does the future of the Tenney Group look like? Well, we're going to find out a little bit from one of our newest team leaders, Chief Commercial Officer Meg Meurer of Tenney Group. Welcome to the Hot Seat.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I can't wait to get in here and share with our network and our audience just about the plans that you have for our organization. I'm so excited that you have joined our group. But before we do that, why don't we just take 30 seconds to tell a little bit about your professional background specific to trucking and M&A.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in trucking for 12 years now, started at Schneider National, actually in driver recruiting, and then moved into a sales role for Schneider. And then also went to a refrigerated carrier in St. Louis. We had about 300 trucks and ran the commercial organization and driver recruiting there. And most recently came from Unigroup, which was the parent company of United Van Lines and Mayflower Transit, also running the commercial organization for Unigroup.
Well, I love that, and I know that you've been a part of several M&A processes as part of those organizations. And, can't wait for you to kind of share how that's going to affect what we're doing here. But one thing I wanted to start was just the mission here at Tenney Group to profoundly impact the lives of our employees, of our clients, and of the people in our community. What about that mission did you resonate with?
Yeah, well, it was so interesting, I think, coming on board because I always thought that so much of the work that we do had to do with the financial returns, right? So many business owners are looking to exit their organization, obviously care deeply about the companies that they've built over their lifetime or multiple generations. And I always thought about it in terms of how we can provide additional value, specifically from a financial return perspective. And I think being here now for 6 weeks, what's been most eye-opening to me is that there's probably an equal amount of weight on their personal objectives too, right? Which is some of what you just talked about, which is how are they going to impact their employees at their organizations, their local community, their families, charitable organizations, post-exit of their own company. And so I think that's just been really special and eye-opening to me is that there's equal amount of weight, I think, on both of those objectives, and sometimes even more on the personal side. So that's been really special, I think, to see and to hear stories from different business owners around what they're going to do next.
No, I think we can all agree that it is a privilege to play a small role in that liquidity event, and then the impact that follows. So let's get into some of just, the role itself. Chief Commercial Officer here in charge of the whole growth strategy. It's a big job. So what are you looking forward to most as part of this role?
Yeah, so I love managing teams of people. And so most excited about that, right? Building a strong, solid commercial team so we can go to market differently probably than we have in the past. So that's what really motivates me. I absolutely love people, love creating teams that trust each other, have each other's back, and really setting a motivating vision, right? And then making sure that goals and objectives are defined and clearly articulated to the team so that everyone's rowing in the same direction and can help enable that growth. So really love helping people not only reach their personal goals and objectives, but their professional ones as well.
So one of the things that was almost embarrassing as part of the recruiting process is just kind of doing the research and hearing people talk about you, both as part of a teammate, people that you have mentored. So I'm curious, what do you think are the ingredients to elite performance for salespeople?
Oh, that's a good question. I think aside from trust, right, which is just foundational, everyone has to have a trust element within their organization at large, but then certainly their teams. I think what's most important, certainly from a commercial standpoint, is creating a winnable game. So what I found is that most sales individuals are really hungry to win. and they really want metrics that are achievable, and then they want all the support and resources to get the job done. And so I think what's most important, I just mentioned defining clear goals and objectives for specific roles within an organization, but making sure that that aligns to the company and the overarching goals of the organization at large, and that you're playing a winnable game. I think most salespeople really like to win.
And when it comes to M&A, it's no easy game. And so we talked about this in our process, extremely complex sell. And what's interesting about the whole M&A process is in most cases, you have business owners that, can be quite resistant to the overall process because it's so personal. If it was just about numbers, it would probably be much easier. But there's so many things in play that have to be addressed as part of transferring ownership in a way that the buyers and the sellers' interest are aligned.
Sure.
So I'm curious when you think about having to satisfy accountants and lawyers and business owners and buyers and their respective trusted advisors around the table, all the complexities. What about that challenge gets you excited?
Yeah, I think it is complex to your point, but it's figuring out how to thread the needle amongst various organizations that sometimes have competing objectives, right? And so, getting understanding the underlying element of what motivates and is important to each group, and then respectively how you're going to package it together and tie it with a pretty red bow. It creates complexities. I think that. The challenge itself is fun and exciting, and it can be stressful, and it can also be exciting trying to figure it out and see what makes everyone tick to get a deal done.
One of the things that I like to do is when we think about, one of the things that we learned a long time ago, we can't motivate anybody to do anything as it relates to selling a business, but we can do a couple things. One, we can educate about the process.
Mm-hmm.
But we can also provide a little bit of vision. And I'm curious, we've talked about some of the stories about our clients, about some of the things that they're now doing post-transaction since they sold their companies in this new chapter of life. Some of it, incredible, life-changing type work. What are some of the things that you've heard since you've been a part of Tenney Group about our former clients and the work that they're doing that has moved you?
Oh gosh. So giving back to charitable organizations, I think, is probably top of the list, whether it's community involvement, children, elderly. There's so many different initiatives, I think, that our clients are really interested in. And there's been a lot of interesting and unique stories, I think, that have been shared over my 6 weeks here, that they're just impactful or give back in ways that a single person wouldn't be able to achieve, but they're impacting generations of people with their exits, right? And so, it's a fun part of the job, no doubt.
Well, I love that. So let's talk about the future. Now we're here to grow, and you have some amazing ideas. Obviously, that's why you're here. But where do you see some, just to kind of give a little bit of a sense for those, that particularly for those that we collaborate with, our friends in the insurance and the attorneys that we work with that also are affected by our growth. Well, how would you describe some of the areas and some of the ways that you think that we're going to start moving the needle and growing as a business?
Yeah, absolutely. Tenney has such a rich history of doing deals in the trucking and logistics space, which I think make the organization incredibly special because we have a lot of deep roots in transportation and logistics and our connections in that space. I love that we specialize solely there. I think that we have a unique seat at the table to help clients differently because of that. But I think our go-to-market strategy will evolve over time. And we've done a lot of deals in asset heavy, right? Whether that's dry van or refrigerated, and then also asset light, right? A lot of brokerage companies that we've also taken to market. But I think that there's a really unique opportunity to go to market in a new avenue of trucking companies that we can also help serve, which is really specialty hauling. So think about final mile, white glove, high touch, high value inventory. Specialty services is part of that. There's a whole segment, I think, of transportation that is insulated from traditional commodities. And I'm really excited to explore that space and see what the opportunities are in that specialty hauling category. And then I would also say additional verticals too that I'm really excited to explore further, some of which would be the drayage space is certainly a hot and growing part of T&L right now. Freight forwarding is another really unique in demand space. So I think that there's different avenues like that. And then the third I would probably add as an additional bucket would just be overall transportation technology. So in the space that I came from, it's all about WMS and TMS and ERPs and CRMs. And within that portfolio of technology suite and capabilities, there's a lot of cool things happening in freight tech. And I think our opportunity to play a role in that space could be really exciting for our future.
I love it. Can't wait. Can't wait. Let me transition the conversation a little bit to leadership. Obviously, I told you, it was super fun just to kind of do the research and to kind of learn about how people think about your leadership. But I'm curious, what are some of the folks are, what are some of your influences? Like who has influenced the way that you lead teams and why?
Yeah, that's great. So I would say I had two core mentors growing up. One is personal, which was my father. He had ran a handful of successful companies that he exited when I was in high school. So I was able to have a seat at the table and really see him firsthand, how he grew organizations, how he made mistakes, how he recovered from them. I think that gave me a really unique perspective on the ways in which I wanted to motivate and manage teams of people. And then I would say professionally, at the last organization I was at, the smaller refrigerated carrier that I spoke about here in St. Louis, my right hand was our CFO, who was also a partner in that organization. And I really wanted to understand how to run a successful trucking company outside of what I knew about sales. And so he gave me the gift of time, and I will forever be indebted to his mentorship because he spent countless hours with me week over week, basically mentoring me through all aspects of running a successful trucking company, from employee benefits to insurance programs to banking relationships. He let me have a seat at the table for all those discussions and really get a peek under the hood at what it takes to run the company at large. And so I was able to see how to manage and mentor people from his perspective, which was more at a C level as opposed to a departmental level. And I think that was very impactful for me, and also learning from him throughout that time there.
I love that. I love that. So what would the folks that have been under your leadership, how would they describe your leadership style?
Oh, that's a good question. I would hope that they would describe it as empowering. I like to set challenging goals, yet attainable goals, and then provide them time and resources to get the job done. But really, I would hope that they would say I've empowered them in different ways to grow beyond their means or what they thought they could accomplish beforehand. And I think that that's the key word that comes to mind. I hope that they would feel empowered by my leadership to go do great things.
I like that. So speaking of being empowered, one of the things that we try to do for prospective talent, and you experience this, is that we have shadow days at Tenney Group as a way to kind of get eyes on one another to say, hey, is this a fit?
Yeah.
For those that are looking at careers in M&A, finance, sales, or what have you, that are what would you share with them about your experience having a shadow day at Tenney Group, and how influential was that as part of your decision-making process?
Yeah, I think it helped tremendously. So I think the benefit to that is understanding how the organization works together, particularly sales and operations, right? Because a lot of organizations, that dynamic is just unique, right? Sales and operations and how they blend together. And so for me, getting a seat and a first look at how those two organizations are operating in sync or not was really important to me. And so our organization obviously is separated by the two. So we've got the commercial side of the organization and then the execution team that's matching all of our listings with respective buyers. And so understanding the process start to finish was really important. And I think just culturally, right, it also let me experience the culture and are we living out our values and what's important to Tenney Group, which is much larger than just being an M&A player in the T&L space, but giving back to our community is incredibly important. So it was really fun for me to experience a Tuesday with Tenney and sit through that lunch and understand how you really impact the community and give back. So that was a fun experience as well.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed that. I think here's the question for a lot of folks that are, there's business owners that they know that they're probably going to exit sometime over the next 1 to 5 years. I mean, we're all going to get out of the industry at some point. I think we can agree on that. Even if we're transferring ownership within a family, what advice would you give to business owners that are, trying to start a conversation with an M&A firm? What do you do, and what should you expect as part of that conversation?
Yeah, I would just say educate yourself as much as possible about the process. It's really interesting coming from my past life in trucking companies. I would hear frequently people talk about exiting their organization at some time. And even now, right, we hear it where owners will say, yeah, well, I'm thinking about it, but it's at least a year out. Or it's at least 9 months away. And so I think that the reality of educating yourself on what that process looks like, and then what is that duration of time that I should commit to in advance, I think that's really important. So I would just say that it's never too late to at least begin exploring that conversation, understand what that process looks like. Certainly reach out. We'd be happy to help or guide you in the right direction and connect you with other advisors within our network. But the process does take some time, and there are a lot of different components at play. And we'd be happy to help educate anyone that might be interested in learning more.
Last question.
Okay.
A little bit of a wild card, Meg.
Here we go.
So we're looking forward. Now you weren't able to participate in the Tenney Group Combine of 2023. Will we see you in the Combine in 2024? And if so, what will your 40 time be?
Oh my goodness. So yes, I will commit to participating next year since you have me on the spot. I don't know. I don't know what the time should be. I need to know what a good baseline would be, I guess. But
just say fast.
Fast. Yeah. I'll sign myself up to participate. I'll give you that much. So.
Well, hey, listen, I appreciate you for the impact that you've already had on our organization, and for folks that want to get in contact with you or learn more about what you're doing, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, please reach out, mmeurer@thenneygroup.com.
All right. That's going to do it for us in the hot seat. See you next time, Meg.